Okay, thanks, Nikita. All right, so we are here. We're starting a little bit late. It's 3:06 for the Governance and Priorities meeting. Everybody's here. We'll call the meeting to order, and we'll begin with the adoption of the agenda. Any additions or
No, Your Worship, the item 6.5 has been added to the agenda, and you have it in front of you.
Okay. Motion to adopt the agenda? Councillor Wilhelm.
I'll motion that the GMP committee adopts the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Any discussion on that? All in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. We'll begin with the Governance and Priorities meeting minutes for September 7th, 2022. And there are a number of issues with those minutes. So what I think we'll do is just accept a motion to table the minutes, and we'll get the corrected version printed out, and we'll pass them at the next Governance and Priorities meeting. Does anyone want to make that motion? Councillor Wilhelm?
I'll motion to table the minutes until the next scheduled governance
Actually,
and priorities committee.
I'm going to correct you, and I said it. We do not have a motion to table in our priorities. It's a motion to postpone.
Motion to postpone the adoption of the minutes from the governance and priorities meeting September 7th, 2022 until the next governance and priorities meeting.
Thank you. Perfect. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. We're on to new business.
Sorry, there's another set of minutes in our package. Are we adopting those, or are we postponing those as well? The Thursday, June 2nd?
Hang on a minute. I only see the September 7th on the agenda. So
Are you on the right? Are you on September 7th?
There's Thursday, June 2nd's in there too.
Yeah.
Oh, there is a June 2nd, yep, but it's not on the agenda.
Right.
It's page,
Page 4.
yeah, page 4 of the package.
Page 4 of the.
If you click on governance and priorities meeting September 7th, actually our entire package is in this link.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can go through air.
Oh, that's right, yep.
There's.
Councillor Kush, do you have the same?
Yeah, I was just looking at.
Now you see, and I'm lost.
So go on item 3.1 off the
Sorry.
iCompass version. And you'll come down to page 4.
Then click on the meeting minutes and then scrolling, and you can scroll.
It's a 74-page package. Under that one.
Yeah, those should have been theory.
Yeah, I thought we had.
Well, the minutes are from last week though. So those would be passed here.
Right, but the June 2nd ones, we should have passed them in the last meeting.
Right.
I apologize, Your Worship, members of council. It's only the September 2nd, 7th, and we'll have it corrected for the next governance and priority. Hopefully, when you hit your draft policy of flag, that you're only dealing with, we're dealing with 5 items, and they should be the draft policy for flag protocol, sorry. United Nations Declaration on Rights of an Indigenous People Act, the road use policy, and the winter operations policy, as well as the Whitecourt District Chamber of Commerce events and meetings policy.
Okay,
Is
that's correct. It's just that under item 3.1, if you click
Yeah.
into that, you'll see there's a second set of minutes there from
Yeah.
not the last meeting, but the meeting before last
yeah,
in there, so.
I see that.
Okay. I'm gonna move on to item 6.1, and we'll follow the agenda. And 6.1 is the draft policy on the flag protocol. Is Corinne here to present?
No, unfortunately, she is away today, so I am presenting it. Your Worship, based on There is no federal or provincial legislation in regards to the protocols for flags or lowering of the half-mast of flags. However, there is recommended guidelines by both the federal government and the provincial government. And so based on those procedures, we prepared a policy that would, for the most part, mirror the protocols that are included. One of the things that we do caution council or make council aware of is if a situation occurs where it happens on a Saturday and the lowering, that we would have to bring in staff to lower the flags we're proposing the 3 main sites.
I see.
And then the other consideration, which would then be at budget deliberation, is redoing our flag poles to accommodate some of the new flags that we are proposing to have in there, including our Indigenous Treaty 6 and Treaty 8 flags.
Okay. Everyone read through this, have any questions, or Councilor Dean?
Yeah, I understand the intent of the extra flag poles. What I believe, the reason I believe this was brought forward to the GMP was that we had a situation where we were kind of wondering if we should lower the flag, and I don't know that this is addressing it. It does say that we don't have an existing flag protocol policy, but basically we lower flags to half-mast on an ad hoc basis. So is this policy, are we saying that that's going to be the practice going forward, that we
No.
lower flags on an ad hoc?
No, I believe under, and I'm just going to find it.
Well, under 1408, is that what you're reading?
Well, I'm reading in the background. And maybe I'm missing
No,
something. Right?
sorry, it is under 2.7. When there's the list of where we lower the flags. So at the mandatory is the sovereignty, the member of immediate royal family, former governor, governor general,
Okay.
prime minister, and then discretionary is that, and these were taken from the protocols. So again, those would be the mandatory, those would be the discretionary, and then there are other occasions where there may be a need to lower them as under 2.9.
Excuse me.
God bless you.
So the situations that came up previously, that would be under the discretionary half-masting, right? So
Yeah.
1 through 6.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry, talked out of line there.
Again,
No.
and the reason they are discretionary is a former member of parliament representing Woodlands County is typically you would do that because the individual you're aware of and worked with that individual. However, we may not get to it right away, so that's why it's discretionary, where the ones above are the protocol where we would do it in accordance with the requirements, so then overtime may be required.
Yep.
So just to clarify then, it's at the discretion of council,
Ultimately would be the discretion of the CAO with the understanding that that's the protocol with it. And meaning, for example, and I'm trying to a former council member that we may not be made aware of it until Monday morning because it happened on the weekend.
Right.
Yeah, so that, I think that's the reason for the discretionary. Again, with the understanding of council wants to move those up into the mandatory, we're not objecting at all to that.
And it's just in the past, we had, like you said, it was ad hoc in the past, and because of that, we had questions on, do we do it now, do we do it for this individual, do we do it for that instance? And you kind of open yourself up as an organization to the,
Picking winners and losers.
well, that's one way to put it, but yeah. It shouldn't be a discretionary type of thing, you should have some structure around it, so that's, it's not a, like this is the first time I've actually seen all our flagpoles listed, and the fact that the one in Anselmo was damaged, so hopefully our asset management program's picking that up. Any other questions? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Councilor Cush.
I was gonna say, I do like the structure of this. I do like it lists, definitively like past counselors and stuff, whatever, if they pass, it is all covered through, or for anybody who might be watching but not reading this, your RCMP or I guess armed force or fire department who died in the line of duty and stuff like that in the area, it's all covered in here. So with that, I want to make a motion that the Governance and Priorities Committee forward draft policy 1408, flag protocol to council for consideration, and forward new flag initiatives to 2023 budget deliberations.
Okay, very good motion on the floor from Councilor Cush. Any discussion on the motion, Councilor Coolton?
The only one that I would, that I don't see here, and maybe I haven't read it, is what about any of our employees on duty?
Excuse me.
I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
this is just
no,
a question.
You could add that if that's the wishes of council. He is a current employee in the line of, and I wouldn't say in the line of duty, current employee. The only reason, if you say former employee, only because,
Yeah, no, I would just say employee working as part of our team.
yeah, current employee.
I think it's just, for me, it's just respecting the fact that they're part of our team.
Yeah. For example,
Councilor Cush.
Jim, did we lower the flags for Jim? No. We never.
I'll take that as a friendly amendment if Councilor wants to make that.
I think the members should weigh in, just if they would agree with that.
Councilor
Yeah, I
Miller.
agree with that. I think that current employee, I think, should be respected.
If you want to add that.
Okay, I'd like to add that as an amendment, if that's all right, friendly.
Okay, so it'll be forwarded to this will be forwarded to council with the
Yeah.
addition of active staff.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. On to United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People. This is referred to as UNDRIP. Okay, Mr. Roach.
Good afternoon, Drew. Good afternoon, Council. This item was initially presented and brought forward at the July 20th Council meeting, and from there referred to Governance and Priorities Committee to make sure that we continue to do our part towards reconciliation and building dialogue with our Indigenous friends and partners. The recommendation in front of you is that Woodlands County Council engage with local area Indigenous leaders to establish a meaningful pathway for inclusion, and using the guidelines of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and the information that the federal government is now putting out on an annual basis as to what they're doing and how they're engaging. And it could lead the county into doing any, some, or all of the following, such as having regular scheduled meetings that would help us to create dialogue, create designated Indigenous positions on county committees, help us to work with recognition on treaty lands and public gatherings. We've talked about flag policy, possibly help us to ensure county participation at Indigenous events, and it could include any other activities that build inclusion and community.
Okay, thank you, Bert. Any questions on this? Councilor Cush?
Okay, just one question to Bert, just, and you say you're holding possibly like dedicated positions on some of the, I guess, our boards for Indigenous individuals, but given that they are members at large, if we don't have somebody from that community apply, how does that play in?
Excuse me. It certainly, I think, comes out to a case-by-case basis for council as to what you would like to do. We know that in our area, we're a signatory of both Treaty 6 and Treaty 8. So whether you want to deal with specific bands, whether you want to just make sure that you have an Indigenous position available, or whether you want to address it through just regular diversity and saying we already have the ability to appoint members from the public that come forward and want to serve on our boards and committees, and we make sure that we're inclusive that way, I think that whole plethora of options is open for council.
Okay. Any other questions?
Not a question, just a comment. So it's, what is it, September 15th, in 2 weeks, on September 30th, we're gonna have the Day of National Truth Reconciliation. And I bring that up just because I look at, the recommendation is to engage with local area Indigenous leaders to establish a meaningful pathway for inclusion, which everybody would support. What I don't see in the recommendation is any specifics as to who to engage with, how to engage with, whether it's at the committee level, whether it's at the council level. So I support the recommendation, but I would like our council to consider, meeting with the councils of the bands that are in the area. So I don't know if that belongs within this RFD, but I just think that statement, that recommendation, if we make a motion to engage with local area Indigenous leaders to establish a meaningful pathway for inclusion, and then don't do anything, then what's the point in making this motion? So I would like to see some more specifics, and maybe we're not prepared for it because we don't know exactly who we should be meeting with, but that's what I see with this RFD, is it's just lacking in detail.
Mr. Frank?
Yeah, your worship, members of council, through to Councillor Dean, the intent from administration is council believes this has merit and wants to do that. And that's the discussion around the governance and priorities committee level. And then once if council does do that endorsement, we would then start to reach out to Treaty 8 and Treaty 6 leaders to say council wants to have a meaningful dialogue on how to include you into our system, our municipality, and some of the things that they want. So you would establish meetings with the respective band members, and then from there, they may say they want X things, right?
Okay, and fair enough, I understand that. I just wonder if perhaps if we want to accept this recommendation, if we could have another motion to direct administration to bring back to our council some recommended pathways for inclusion.
I think, your worship, members of council, and again, I think it's important, and you can do that. Don't, not precluding that to do that, and that's the part about this discussion is that what council wants to do, right? So we think the important part from an administration side of things is to set up that initial meeting with the respective Indigenous leaders and get their input to see what they want. And then from there, draft that policy, draft that protocols, whatever it may be, right? So we think the first step is to have that a dialogue with them. Because one of the things that we were working on, and Nikita, we reached out to doing a recognition at the beginning of council meeting. And one of the things that one of the band members, leaders said, it has to be meaningful. And we went, well, okay, what does meaningful mean, right? To us, it might be two different things, right? So that's why I think it's important that you as the leaders of our community have that conversation with them, so.
Well, and I think what you're talking about is kind of two different cultures, and you communicate with different cultures in different ways. And that communication through the two cultures might look a little different. So we might assume that we should create something in a certain way that really isn't helpful to the other culture. So if I read what you're saying correctly, you want to start this passing here, we're going to have a process to engage with Indigenous groups, and then we will actually see how it is that we shape that engagement from there. Is that correct?
So that council has a better understanding of what they would like to see, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay. I'm going to go with Councillor Dean, then Councillor Koofman.
Okay, and perhaps I'm being too specific with this. I know in the past, we've had an intent at council, and then because there wasn't a motion made, we didn't have direction to administration as to exactly what we as a council want. And I don't really understand what this means. So does this mean that administration is gonna reach out to band elected people, or they're gonna reach out to band admin people? What does that look like?
Yeah, so what we would do is reach out to the administrators or our people that will, because we do have a number of contacts in regards to who we would do to establish those, and that includes Métis and the Indigenous leaders for this area, Treaty 8 and Treaty 6, right? And see who that contact is, and then arrange a meeting with the respective leaders with council, right? Yeah.
Right, which is different than what this recommendation is, because the recommendation is that Woodland County Council is gonna engage. And so we will eventually, after we've figured out how to do it.
Yeah, I guess I see engage as in that, first of all, you're willing to do this. The second part is now when you engage with the Indigenous leaders to establish a meeting path forward. So you don't know what that path is at this point in time. That's how we see that as from an administration, right? And we don't know what, again, as Reed Burrows indicated, is sometimes two cultures have two different meetings on the same task, so.
And I mean, a motion can be defeated, but I think I'm gonna make a motion directing administration to reach out to the respective Indigenous administration and come back to council with a recommendation on how to achieve inclusion, or a pathway for inclusion.
Okay. That motion's accepted. Councillor Kulkin, you have your hand up.
Well, I think this, I'll direct this through the chair to both Gord and Bert. This is exactly the same thing that we're doing right now at Growth with the municipalities, because we really don't know what they want. And I think that's where we're at with the Indigenous, is we have to ask first is, do they even want to be involved? And so this is the first step in doing that. And so I guess I read this as being, the first step, so.
Councilor Wilhelm?
What, for history's sake, what interaction, what reaching out have we ever done in the past with regards to reaching out to the bands, contacts, projects, anything that we've done with them? Like, what's our history with them locally?
Bert?
Several years ago, I think it would have been 2019, Rudy Burrows and I, we did go and we attended a meeting with some of the band elders on site at the Alexander Nation. We know that through our BSNs, we have routine involvement from Alexander. Through Community Futures, we've had a number of projects that Community Futures has done, specifically with Alexis, and we know that there has been some involvement there. Last year, for the Aboriginal Day, we did provide tent support as well as a large amount of cut firewood for the celebration that was in Rotary Park, and I know we've been approached in regards to providing tents for the event again this year. So those are some of the things. Probably one of the largest things that we did through growth was, again in 2019, we did a blanket exercise led by a number of elders right within Fort Assiniboine. And so there was a number of, our entire council was invited at that time. I think we had 3 or 4 of our councillors attended, and they were part of the blanket exercise. So over the last several years, we have had some routine interaction, and on the economic side of it, we're starting to see more and more the opportunity to work with these groups as potential investors and as potential business partners as well. And so it's been very interesting in my relationship that I've been developing with the EDOs and on some of the tourism and development stuff through Indigenous tourism, to understand that there's a great deal of interaction and there's a lot of working business relationships that we can see that are happening. Alexander has been very proactive in the last several years in not only redoing their own governance and making sure that they understand their own path forward, but they've also set up several companies that are very active and that are doing very well as well.
So, just to follow it up, Councillor Dean, what was the motion that you had said?
Yeah, and I guess I was just letting people know that I was planning on making the motion. What the motion would do would direct administration to engage with the various Indigenous groups in the area and report back to council on a recommendation to establish a meaningful pathway to inclusion. Because what I don't see in this recommendation is us asking administration to do something. And so that's just what the motion would be doing.
Okay, that makes sense. Because when I read the recommendation itself, we're essentially, if we were to do a motion based off this recommendation, we'd be making a motion to direct ourselves to go engage
what I see
with the
too.
Indigenous, right? Which is typically what you do, you make a motion to engage administration to, so I think you've just reworded it in a way that makes more sense.
Sure.
Okay, I did accept the motion, by the way,
Yeah.
so it's on the floor at the moment.
I don't know if Nancy caught it. It was kind of just rumbling out.
Yeah.
That's why I try and say motion's accepted now, so it's a bit of a cue to our minute holders, so they're minute takers. Okay, so we still have a motion on the floor. Does anyone wish to speak to it, or call the question? I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. So that would become the recommended action then, or do we still need another one on this to adopt the UN resolution?
No, council did that at the last council meeting.
Yes, so we have adopted this as information, and I mean, the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People is the law of the land that was adopted by the
Right.
federal government. So it was just to have council understand that this is the guidance that the federal government is doing, and they are doing this annual report. and within the annual report, there may be some ideas we might want to take a look at implementing at the local level.
Okay. All right, so we can move on to item 6.3 then, the RFD on the road use policy. And let's get me to a completely different place. Where are we? Andre.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, Woodlands County Council Asset Policy 3219 for road use agreements be brought to the G&P Committee for review with a clause added to reflect public consultation for instances of abnormal hauls. As part of doing that, we sent the policy and our road use agreement to our solicitors for opinion. They came back, identified that we lacked a bylaw to enforce it. So the policy is one page. You'll notice on the page that there's some some bold print. Those are items that have been added into the policy, and strike out words that have been removed to the policy. So there was a clause regarding special requests that were deemed unusual by the Director of Infrastructure shall be brought to council for approval. That was changed to council will be notified if time allows public consultation, and notification will take place prior to an extended haul taking place. The road use agreement, which is attached, we had industry input in this, I believe in 2019 when we revised it. So trucking companies had input. We did make changes as part of that. On page 7 of the road use agreement, there's two small typos. One is changing the word 2 to 5 to reflect the $5 million insurance. And then at the bottom of section 23 was crossed out. That didn't pertain to anything. The bylaw itself, this is an all-inclusive road use bylaw. So it will include speed limits on specific roads. That came up earlier in the year as far as Stratton Avenue. We don't have a log identifying all those speed limits on which roads. So that'll be part of this. The parking, road bans, load weights, road use agreements, and offenses and penalties will all be reflected in this bylaw. So it will take a bit of time for this to come back to, or to go back to council. There'll have to be some research done so we can populate it. And the road use agreement and the fees and the weights and measures all tie back into the Travis permit system, which is administrated by the provincial government. So the province issues Travis permits to haulers, plus we issue some permits. We'll be bringing back an RFD to council at a later date to contract to Road Data, who do roughly 65% of the permits within Alberta, and they would coordinate permits for the haulers, for Travis, and for road use agreements with the county, collect the fees, and submit that back to the county. There would be a fee of, I think, about $1,000 a year for them to do that, but that would be coming back at a later date. Any questions?
I'm gonna go Councillor Prestige, I think I saw first, then Councillor Cook, and then Councillor Williams. Go ahead, Councillor
The
Cook.
reason I asked to have this brought forward was abnormal haul. We need clarity on that. This stems back to West Fraser doing a haul. It's north of the Salmo Road, up to the old Blue Ridge Highway and then into Blue Ridge, because they didn't want their log trucks hauling on while they're doing road construction. The residents, some were made aware of it, some weren't, the day before the haul started. Like, this was a major log haul that was taking place. There was anywhere from 25 trucks hauling from 7 in the morning till 10 at night. 7 days a week, or 6 days a week, I guess. And the residents weren't aware of it. They started hauling without doing dust control for 2 days, and it was not good. So when we have, as you say, a normal haul, we need clarity on how many trucks are hauling, what are the hours of operation, how long is it gonna be? Like, this one was supposed to be a month and a half, and that was in June, I think it started, and they're still hauling. Like, these residents, these trucks are going by, they're fully loaded trucks, 16 hours a day. They should have been notified right away. There should have been public consultation over it. We did have public consultation after the fact, but that should be in our road use agreement. Like, how many trucks? What are the hours of operation? A length of time before a new permit has to be required. And, the dust control, everything that goes with it should be part of the policy.
Councillor Coogan.
Yeah, through the chair to Andre. Does every, commercial trucking on county roads require a permit?
Through the chair, no. Our policy, I believe, says any haul lasting more than a week with more than 3 loads per day requires a road use agreement.
So, I guess the question I have is, how is that monitored? I have a situation just east, Range Road east of me, Brosts. I don't know if he has a road use agreement. As a counselor, I don't know that. Maybe I should have contacted you, but I know that he hauls at night sometimes. So I don't know what the road use agreement would be for that. So that's, I think, answers a bit of the question and way that we have to develop that policy is that at least then we would have something to turn to and say, yeah, okay, he's only hauling two loads a day, so he isn't required to have a road use agreement. Is that kind of the sense that I get from this?
Essentially, but if he's hauling 2 loads a day for 2 weeks, then yes, he would. But if it's that
okay.
1 week span is the trigger, essentially. That 1 week span plus the number of loads in a day.
Okay.
And if I can just add, a lot of times we don't know if somebody has a road use agreement or not, or if there's a haul going on until we get calls about it. And then that's what triggers us looking into it.
Councillor Dean.
I think Councillor Kush had his hand up first, but,
Andre just answered.
yeah,
Councilor Williams was-
okay. So I did have a question. Am I butting in? Is that what's happening?
It's been called Councilor Williams twice.
So I want to come back to the comment that Councillor Prestich made about the notification and the extraordinary hauls. Quite honestly, when I read this RFD, I got to item 4 on the policy statement and saw in bold print, council will be notified of, and that's what I thought was addressing what you had brought to council, because I recall you telling that exact, or drawing that scenario up and saying that, we needed something in our policy to notify the public. So I think it's important that gets captured, for sure.
Councilor Williams?
I may have missed or something, but is there, like, not a truck driver by no means, but I'm sure some of this stuff is pretty time sensitive. If somebody gets a call, has to go to work or do something, is there anything saying how long this takes the county to process it? Like, does this go on for 2 weeks, or is it, I know it says minimum 48 hours before, but is there anything holding the county to a timeline to get a road use permit either approved or not approved, I guess?
Through the chair, no. When I went through our neighboring municipalities, no one has a timeline in there. We typically, once we receive them, we typically approve them within 24 hours, normally. But there is nothing in here identifying what the timeline is. One of the issues is if it comes in on let's say a Friday night, most of the time, well, no, if it comes in on a Friday night, we may not see it until Monday. However, by going with road data, they have somebody working 24/7, so they would be approved relatively quick. And if I can just go back to the question Councillor Colkin had, the definition for road use is 5 loads within 1 week.
Okay, so in this case, there's more than that happening, so, okay.
And we typically send the peace officers out to meet the haulers.
Councillor Wilhelm?
So does this now allow us, like, we've had situations before, in the past where residents are taking loaded trucks down roads that are obviously not rated for them. We've got some of our subdivisions that have, cold mix on them, and then, there's log truck owners that are driving down those roads that are obviously not rated for a load that large. Does this now allow us to have an avenue for preventing that from happening or penalizing them if they do that? Because I do know it's caused significant damage to some of the roads that we have built that this is occurring.
Through the chair, our oil roads are, I believe, have a 50% ban on them. So if somebody down that road has a logging truck or whatever, they can go in and out of there all day long empty, but they are not to be on there with a load unless they get an approval and a road use agreement. There are there's a couple contractors that live on an oiled road, and we do give them permits to haul overload their equipment in and out.
Okay. And then my second one, it kind of goes to the vein of the conversation that you guys were just having there recently with Councillor Williams, but and this had come up and you had dealt with it very quickly, which was great, where one of the residents owns a hauling company and he had got an emergency hot shot or haul out for an oil company within the county, but this call out occurred on a Saturday when nobody's working and he needed to haul on a Sunday. So is there a current system in place for getting a road permit on short notice when, like, say, a business in our community requires to get one to haul on a Sunday, but they didn't get the call out to go till a Saturday when the offices are closed? Is there a process in place for that?
Through the chair, I would say the majority of the haulers in the area know that they can go to our website, fill in the road use agreement, submit it, and it is triggered to somebody's phone.
Okay.
It doesn't work 100% of the time, but typically we can respond over a weekend right now.
Okay, just wanted to make sure, like, I know we solved that very easily, but I just wasn't sure if that was because I had contacted you directly about it, or if it was just that we have a procedure in place for that, so.
One of the issues with our system right now, if it goes to somebody's phone and that person is where there's no cell service, they may not get it, all depending.
Okay. Thank you.
And I'm just gonna, before I recognize you, Councillor Williams, I'm just gonna comment on something that you brought up. Because we are gonna be talking about roads and service levels and oiled versus gravel versus some of these other things. And you brought up a really valid point on the oiled roads. You end up with heavier traffic down an oiled road, and it can be significantly damaged. And the reality is too that even though the load weight of the truck may be underweight because of the span between the axles, once that twists, it'll just tear the heck out of that cold mix in those areas. So, you know, this is something that we and people need to be aware of on setting service levels. So, you know, you might say, well, we wanna oil this road, and that'll be an increase in service level, but now we effectively banned it so that, you know, one of the owners that's been down there for a long time using that road can't get in. So it's not quite as easy as it seems sometimes. Just one thing I'm gonna point out on here before I recognize Councillor Williams is in your template. You're about 20 years behind the times here, because you've got 200, and then you fill out the last digit for the date. And the last time I checked my calendar, we're in 2021, so it's on page 13 of 33. So the haul to take place from 200 blank to 200 blank. Councillor Williams?
I don't know if there's any support from council. I think we should put a time of how long this takes, even if for now, if we don't have a 24-hour system in place, even if it's business hours, at least we can guarantee our residents we're gonna have it done within X amount of time. I don't know, does anyone have any thoughts on that?
I'm gonna go ahead and speak. I think we'd actually like to see that set in the service level guidelines when we get deeper into some of our service levels. So how fast do we process a building permit? Development permit? How fast do we get a development permit done? How fast do we get this done? What's our road clearing club? What's all the rest of it? And I don't know that service level needs to be specifically in this policy, because every time, if there's a change to it, then you have to revise the entire, and this is a bylaw, so. Anytime you revise a bylaw, you've gotta have a public consult and the whole, it's quite a process, right?
In this case, you don't have to have a public consult, but it may be recommended.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Go ahead.
I like how you said that at the times, at least people know then how long it can take. At most, it's gonna be 2 days a week, whatever it is for a development permit or for whatever they're applying for. At least there's a time associated with that. And I have never got a complaint that this took too long, but just so people know what they're getting into when they apply for these things. So I like how you worded that, if there could be some times associated with more than just this, right?
Your worship, members of council, I believe though, an RFD will come to council for consideration to contract with road data that in that contract would have specified their turnaround, and that's when you can look at that and see if it's acceptable by council.
Okay. I'm just gonna make one more comment here. So number 4, when we were talking about notification of council, so council will be notified of any request that's deemed unusual by the Director of Infrastructure Services, and will be notified, excuse me, and if time allows, public consultation and notification will take place prior to an extended haul taking place. The problem that we're having, more so than council being notified, is the public being notified on some of these things. So when we're doing road hauls, is there a mechanism by which we can put some signage on the road that says road haul in progress. You know when they put a rig move in process and there's signage out for a rig move? We do that for a road haul and say this road haul starts on this day, ends on this day. And then residents are at least know, because every time I drive up Highway 32 right now, I run into that stupid traffic light, and I love to know when they're gonna be done, because I sit there for 10 minutes every day, both ways. I'm just, and again, within the bylaw, it's good that we know, but even more importantly, what we're here to do is inform our residents.
Yeah, I think your worship, members of council, just for that, again, when you say unusual circumstances, you know, you learn as you go when these things occur, right? For example, the 658 paving, right? And the safety factor, and that's the reason why. And we wanted, the company wanted them off, and we thought that was in the best interest of the general public, right? So we acted. So sometimes there is not enough time to consult, whereas our local lumber companies, forestry companies, pre-plan, and they know in advance, and they come to us and annually tell us what their hauls are and where they're coming from. So from that perspective, we can do it if we believe that there's a need to address those special log hauls that occur. But I think you almost have to do it by case basis.
Councilor Preston?
I kind of agree with case by case hauls, but what triggers that? It's gotta be
Have a threshold.
how many trucks are hauling, how many loads per day, and the length of time and the hours of service. That is what triggers whether the public gets consulted or not. So whether it's 20 loads a day
Yeah.
for 12 hours a day for the next month. And once that is done, the month is over, because that's what the company is telling us, they want a road use agreement for 30 days. Once that 30 days is over, they should be asked to do another road use agreement. And what does that curtail? Is it gonna be still 20 loads a day, 12 hours a day? Because it's nice to say, yeah, we'll just give them a road use agreement. But the problem is, it impacts these residents' lives. It's the same thing. I don't think anybody sitting here would like to see 30 log trucks go by their yard every day without having any consultation in it. So it's like, I get it, the mill needs to haul wood, they need wood in, but even the mill manager at Blue Ridge Lumber says, I wouldn't want that many trucks hauling past my house every day. But it's something that we have to do. But the people need to be consulted. It's no difference than Councillor Wilhelm with getting the roads ripped up and stuff and wanting signs out there telling people this is what's happening. We need consultation with our residents. Like, our residents are our bosses. As much as we don't like to think so, they are our bosses and they need to be informed. So it's up to us to decide how to do that.
Just for a matter of clarity, the difference between consultation and information are two very different things. What I was talking about at the time was putting up some signage so that, you know, you're letting people know how long this is going on, and that kind of thing. In the specific case that we were talking about, I think administration, if administration went and brought the whole thing to council, I'm thinking we would have made the safety call to still do the log haul the way it was, with dust control, with better information, with all of those things. And that was an extraordinary case. My point, though, is just that if you approve a 7-day or a 2-week log haul or some kind of haul on a road, it would be nice to have something that residents know how long this is going on, what the times are it's going on, and when it's gonna go.
We talk all the time about our residents need to be informed and consultation with council. So if you got a 30-day log haul in front of your place and you wanna voice your opinion, getting an information sheet doesn't do that. You need consultation.
Okay. Councillor Williams, and then I saw Councillor Culkin and Councillor Wilhelm's hands up over here too, so go ahead, Councillor Williams.
I agree with Councillor Crestridge. I think rather than there be 3 categories of a trigger, like X amount of loads for X amount of time, whatever, all those should be a trigger. Like if it's an excessive amount, if it's gonna be 50 loads in 12 hours, or it's gonna be 30 days long, or it's gonna be any one of those should be a trigger, I think. Rather than find this little box that, that was just outside of it, we don't have to notify or something like that. I don't think you can notify people too much of heavy hauls on the roads in front of their house. They won't be annoyed knowing more than not enough, so I agree with you.
Councillor, wait, I got Councillor Wilhelm and Councillor Culkin, so which one of you was first? I don't know. Councillor Wilhelm, go ahead.
This is more of a general comment, maybe suggestion with regards to the policy. I think the key thing here with all these policies when we're revising them in the future is to make sure that we take out subjectiveness out of all of the policy. Because right now there is a lot of subjectiveness. Like council will be notified of any request in which may be deemed unusual by the Director of Infrastructure or Structure. That is very subjective, right? This is where policies have created problems for us and the residents in the past, is where subjectiveness of one person deciding whether or not whatever's happening meets within the policy. I think we can make everybody's jobs easier and the residents' lives easier if you take that subjectiveness out. If they read this and look at it and say, okay, I know what's considered, like I know when I'm gonna be notified of a haul or that's out of policy, right? Or what do you want to say? There's just not enough specificity in here for it, for one. And then for two, if you want to treat these road hauls, which have a big impact in everybody's lives, much like you would in the oil and gas, these permits could be posted up where the hauling is happening. So any resident could go look at it and see how many trucks are supposed to be happening here per day during what times. Because if there's an issue, you have enough eyes on it knowing what's going on. Because right now, somebody could fire off one of these permits, and are we actually going out there and reviewing and making sure they're staying within what they've decided? Or maybe their haul has changed after 2 weeks and now they've got double the amount of trucks. Does anybody even know that that's happening? I don't want to create more work for administration, but if you were to look at this like any job that I would go on, I would get a permit for what I'm doing, and when that permit changes, I need to either reapply for the permit to get it changed, and I have to have that permit on me the entire time when it's happening. And you can't just put it in people's trucks, because no resident's gonna run out and stop a truck and be like, hey, show me your permit, I wanna see what's going on here. So I mean, that might, when you're talking about signage and you're saying how long this is supposed to happen, the permit could be posted right there on the haul, at either end of the haul road. So anybody can go look at it. This is just an idea, but those are my 2 points. Specificity is very important when we're revising policy, and also clarity for residents.
I have suggested that only because I don't want people stopping on a haul road where you're gonna have big trucks ripping by, trying to read it, have 3 cars lined up reading a road use agreement.
Yeah.
Councillor Culkin.
Well, I'm glad that Councillor Wellen brought this up, and it leads into what you guys are talking about, and I think we have to be very cognizant of the fact that we're going to have 100,000 cubic meters, I believe, coming out of the White Zone in the Woodlands County area. And those roads that are traditionally being used right now for log hauls, our county roads are gonna be used. And so it's really important that we start looking at this and making sure that we have these policies in place. And the consultation is there, because there's a lot of folks that don't know that this is a proposed thing and it's gonna happen.
Councillor Dean, then Councillor, okay, Councillor Dean was first, and then Councillor Preston.
So, I guess it's a question for Bruce. You know, everybody agrees with you that, the public needs to be consulted with. What do you see as, some ways to do that? So Jeremy's talking about having the permits, but that's a little after the fact, right? Because the haul's already going on. What would you suggest?
Through the chair, when that haul started, like, my phone was ringing off the hook, I was getting screamed at, everything. I contacted Gord said, let's have a meeting at the community hall. I got as many people as I could get hold of, know it was there. They came, we had members of infrastructure there and from West Fraser there. They asked questions, they got answers, and I haven't had a phone call since.
Mhm.
And they've been hauling now for 2.5 months.
Sure. So, in advance of that, you need to let people know, right? Again, that was reactive. An example of what had happened in the past is the paving of the extension of West Mountain Road went through 2 terrible construction seasons. It was really rainy, both of them, and the project didn't get completed on schedule. And so I had asked for, I think it was the summer students that came, and they just had a letter that was a door hanger. You know, it was in a bag and it hung on residents, and it gave details, and then encouraged the residents, if they had other questions, to call me or to call. So if we're going to be proactive, what would you suggest? So we know that this is going to happen a
Well,
week in advance.
We could start with, like you just said, the door hanger or whatever, saying there will be a consultation meeting at such and such a place at such a time. If you have any concerns, be there.
Sure.
We give them the opportunity. They may not show up. It's not a good thing on their part, but we have done our due diligence and made them aware this is going to happen. So it's not like they happen every day. Like in our area, there's been one in the last 5 years that I've been on council. So it's not a big project.
I'm gonna go with Councillor Williams and Councillor Wilhelm.
I think most of what I was saying got covered already by everybody, but even door hangers or notification of some sort. Like when I lived in town, they dug up the water line in front of my house. I didn't love it, but at least I knew it was happening. Like just having that, hey, we're gonna be here this week, digging up water line, and it was great. And then you're not calling and trying to get to the bottom of what's happening, right? So.
Councillor Wilhelm.
Mine was just a question through the chair to administration. How often do these, I guess you'd call abnormal or excessive hauls happen? Like how many per year?
Through the chair, as was identified in the 4 years I'm here, that's the only one I'm aware of.
Okay.
Okay. I gotta ask a question, just use, how many abnormal hauls? So what's an abnormal haul again?
Other than the one that makes the phone ring off the wall,
Well, what constitutes an abnormal haul?
Yeah, I guess my question was with regards to 4, what's unusual, deemed
Like,
unusual by Adjournment?
My point is, okay, maybe the better question, well, sorry, I don't mean to say it wasn't a good question. Maybe the more, maybe the question that needs to be asked is, how many road use agreements do you issue in a year? Does Woodlands County issue in a year?
Hundreds,
Okay,
500.
now, that's the issue to me is, some of these are, you know, what is it, 5 trucks in a week? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so 5 trucks in a week, I don't really, it's not really gonna blow my hair back. Even if I'm right next to the road, it's really not gonna blow my hair back. All I'd like is a sign, or, you know, at least something I can go to on a website and tell me it's a 5, you know, I'm gonna see 5 trucks in the next week and then it's over. I don't necessarily need a consult at that point. So I think the idea around thresholds is actually the idea, so. And we should always be informing. It doesn't necessarily mean we should always be consulting. So sometimes we're going to consult at a certain, when you get to these heavy hauls, we need to consult, and we need to make sure that they understand that there's gonna be these things going on. And I think that's gonna be the best balance between what's good for the municipality, what's beneficial to the residents, and what keeps the trucks moving and the commerce going, and without overloading the administration. And I think that's what we're all talking about, but I could be wrong. Is that about right?
Yeah, there has to be a threshold. Like I
Okay.
said, how many trucks per day, whether it's 20 trucks a day, and the hours of operation, like if they're gonna be hauling 24 hours a day, residents have to know, and the length of time.
Andre?
Just a few comments. As far as determining unusual, we have, I'm gonna say, 7 roads within the county that have residents on them that are dedicated haul roads. From the past history, and they are dedicated haul roads, those are not unusual, because they're dedicated for that. If we have somebody, I don't know, let's say E-Construction is paving, they need blend sand, which happened a couple of years ago off of the old Blue Ridge Highway. They had a number of trucks hauling during the day. It's on pavement where the residents are. Is that unusual? I would think not. So threshold, I think it's gonna be a combination of roads, which roads, and the threshold of how many trucks are hauling. And you're not gonna wanna hear this, but there's gotta be some subjectivity to it. It cannot be black and white. It won't work. Yes, 102, unusual. Should have been handled different, but it wasn't. Putting signs out for a haul, if it's putting the permits out, if it's putting the signs out, it is going to be more work for county staff. We can tell the contractors, put the permit signs out, but then we're gonna be getting the calls, the permit's over, those signs are still out there. Contractor's gone, who gets the permits or the signs? It's gonna be infrastructure people. So it will be more work. It is a good idea putting the permits out there, but maybe another avenue is we have on our website, and we've been talking about this already. We have a portal, we can put a portal on our website where if somebody sees a haul going on, they can go click on it, see the current road use agreements, and identify, do they have a permit or not? And then they can go see, you know, the conditions of their permit are this. That may be a better way. Then it's just a matter of advertising. If you see a haul going on, you can go to our website, look at it.
Absolutely.
So as far as unusual, it's gonna be tough to come up with the criteria. You know, it'll have to be which roads, or type of road, the number of trucks, any identifiable issues like dust or something, but that's gonna be difficult. And we have to think of the big picture and long term. If there's a rig haul going on, is that unusual? If it's going down a regular road where there's a bunch of houses? I don't know.
So I'm just gonna look at one thing in the policy here, it's on page 5. So pre and post haul inspections, when would we, it says the county may, at its discretion, conduct a pre and post haul inspection. When would we what would be our thresholds for doing a pre? Because if you don't do a pre, there's no point in doing a post.
That's right.
So you gotta see what it was to what it is, and then say, and we think you wrecked the road. You know, we need a little cash to fix the road. What would the may, since I can't use the word threshold, be there for that?
Again, that's subjective. So if there's a rig move going on, we would do a pre and a post inspection. 102, yes, pre and post inspection. If we are having difficulty with a specific hauler, we would implement a pre and a post.
Okay, so with respect to the use of staff time, if you're doing a pre-inspection, that means you're gonna be on the road, having a look at the condition of the road. Surely you can do two things at once and pitch a sign over the side of the truck and then pick them up in the post-inspection.
A sign identifying that there's a haul going on, you mean?
Well, that you just put a road use agreement in place.
If we're doing that. If we are doing inspections, yes.
Right. Counselor Wilhelm first, then Counselor Williams.
I just want to say, like, Andre, you say it's difficult to not be subjective, but that's like your expertise is saying right here. You just listed off 5 reasons why you would do a pre and post job inspection, right? So it's not really subjective, you know. So that's what your expertise is. So, yeah, I think if you wanted to create it more specific in the policy on what it is, you just go off of what utilizing your expertise and say, this is when I would do it, and then make that the policy. And if it needs to change in the future, it can change, right? But you just off the top of the head listed 5 reasons why you would do a pre and post job inspection. That's kind of, we're leaning on you for your expertise. So it's not really it's subjective in the fact that you're going to be the one that decides when that happens, but you kind of in your head already know when that's going to happen.
True, but to add more subjectiveness to it, I may, or whoever's approving the road use agreement may, for a rig haul, may say, yes, we need it on this road. No, we don't need it on that road because we know this road's in good shape. That one,
But you could list specific roads, right?
we have 1,000 kilometers of road.
Right. You could take, okay, fair enough. I guess when you say subjectivity, you could say, you know for sure X, Y, and Z road are always going to be a problem. Those are in the policy. The rest of the roads are on the discretion of the infrastructure manager, right? And then you've only specified specific roads. You know that no matter what, every time you're going to do a pre and post on it, and then the rest of the roads are just subjective, right? I mean, like you said, not everything can be objective all the time, but you can take some of the subjectivity out using your experience. Like, I'm always going to do one on this road, so that can just be included in the policy because you know that road's always going to be a problem. I'm just saying, I'm not saying you have to do that. I'm just saying that's my suggestion. I think that you're underselling your ability to determine which stuff could be included in the policy.
Counselor Williams, then Counselor Cush.
I was just gonna add to Reeves' comments about the signs, because you kind of know the higher risk activity. We are anticipating to some degree of there being damage to that road during that haul, because we've triggered this pre and post. To put the signs up probably isn't a bad idea, because the chance of that road getting beat up a bit is obviously pretty high because we're inspecting it. I agree that you could do two jobs at the same time and maybe do that.
Andre?
Just to go,
Gonna argue with multitasking.
I will go back.
He's mad at everybody.
It would be easier to list the roads we would not do an inspection on.
Perfect.
And as far as getting signs out, the municipality would not put signs out. We would put that on the onus of the hauler.
And I'm
Put
okay
the
with
signs.
that too. If that's part of their
Responsibility.
responsibility, and if they don't go pick up the signs, then
Charge
they
'em.
pay for somebody to go pick up the signs. Like if there's like I work in the oil field, I know what rig moves do to roads. Believe me, I've seen it a million times. And
Those aren't
They
roads
s-
out there.
yeah, they're not roads. They
They're
go
trails.
out and put their signs out. Enzyme 32, going that way, whatever it is. If that was part of their road use agreement, I'm sure that they would do it to stay in good standings, and they'd go pick up their signs after and return them to the county or whatever. Maybe we have that sign. I just think that if people are aware that this is happening before they hit the rut that's a foot deep on a Saturday, it'll probably be a lot easier to deal with.
Andre.
Through the chair, so putting the signs out, we can make that a condition of the road use agreements. And we do have a page that lists all the conditions. So we can check that off, that the hauler has to put signs out for unusual or heavy hauls. If it's log haul on existing haul roads, no, everybody knows they're hauling. But 102, yeah, we can put that a condition, you gotta put signs out that there's a,
And if I can, on the industry roads, I agree with you 100%. There's one north of Fort Assiniboine, that's where they haul a lot of logs out of. That road is super wide, it's built quite well. Everybody knows that's an industry road. I don't think that we need to add more signage to that. But on some of these other ones, if there is a rig move where the log trucks get diverted, I think that that's a really good thing to add. And whether we supply those signs and get them back or whatever, however you guys do that. But the person hauling 6 loads a week, once in a while, probably doesn't have to do that, but I agree.
Anything over here? Councilor Bush.
I just want, I like Andre's suggestion of having a portal or something off the website where it's listed, where you can have the permits on there, people can look, whether it's linked to a map like our service track, or you'll something where it's kind of on the people to see. I do think, you know, in our unusual or like the unusual loads or the heavier stuff like that, a lot of that stuff when it's coming up, there is definitely pre-planning, and you know, at time it's not usually like a 24-hour or 48-hour notice where we're moving this. There's usually some type of leadway into it where obviously like the one up around Blue Ridge there could have been something, and you know, not just on the municipality, but we'll say industry, if they had an idea this was going on, you know, they could have used a little bit of force saying that too would be at the public. But like those ones aren't usually just out of the blue, you know, we're doing this. There's usually some type of thought, so I agree in that. But we'll say that, like, and again, with the signage, you know, the bigger stuff and stuff coming through, a lot of those companies have those signs and stuff to begin with. You know, there's, you know, like equipment moving or whatever. And I don't think on the bigger ones or stuff that might impact the residents, it being an unrealistic ask to put that on the permitting process for them.
And I think to wrap this large conversation up, and there's a lot of good ideas here, and I think if we boil it down to this, we recognize that the policy the way it was and the way that this reads still allows for situations like what we had previous to occur. We're trying to make sure that at minimum, the policy reads that something like that happened with Councillor Prestige's area does not happen again. And I don't see that in this policy. I think it can still happen. So, because there's a lot of maze and a lot of subjectivity to it. So I think there are some thresholds in there. There's some that are, the putting all the information up on the website, that's practically free. We do a lot of updating anyways. That should almost be a standard it should be a standard practice along this, and that should be in here. Then setting a threshold on how big and how invasive is this rig move, and putting a condition of signage in there on the company or on us, however it's gonna work. I think that's something that I heard here. And then, when the requirement to consult comes in. And I think if those three things are in there, I think we've kind of got this figured. Is that about right?
Yeah.
Just to
I would agree with that.
subjectiveness, that's, just to take out some of that subjectiveness, because, yeah, there's just too much room in there for those things and stuff, so I agree.
Like, I know where you're coming from, Andre. You don't wanna be the, hey, my pizza's 30 minutes or it's free. It's 30 minutes and 2 seconds, cause I hung the phone up at that time. I know where you're coming from. But the big ones, like what happened, it should be in policy that kind of thing doesn't happen again. And I can still see an opportunity for that to occur here. There's a lot of mays instead of shalls. So is that all the comments on this particular, those 3 or 4 items? And do you have enough to fix it and bring it back?
I just have one question. So coming up with the threshold and definition of unusual is gonna take some stick handling. Is the committee okay if we come up with something, email it out for comments, get it all back? Instead of bringing it back to council, then taking it away back and forth.
And it may look like something like, if it's a bannable road, because not all the roads are bannable. We've got a few that you don't have to ban, right? So, if if the road is to that standard, this enormous standard, then the threshold on that's gonna be ridiculously high. But, some of the other roads that we have are, Mr. Frank.
Well, and just a comment or an observation, would unusual be safety related? Because for the most part, our forest industry does their hauls pre-planned already. Most rigs are pre-planned. And the one that occurred this summer was based on a safety factor, right? And again, would it be safety like a culvert gets washed out and they have to now go down that road, right? And you stop the haul for 2 days until that repair occurs, or, right? Or it's gonna be 2 months before the road gets fixed where they're normally on. And I'm just an observation, is it safety related where that unusual change in haul would occur? When does another haul occur without it being pre-planned? And again, what has happened in the past 5 years that, I can remember the winter log haul on East Mountain Road where Miller Western informed that they were bringing out 1,000 loads and let us know ahead of time, right? And we advised the public of that. And they did the radio ads and stuff.
And again, that's part of this, is that we're always informing,
Right.
right? So if there's anything pre-planned, we're always informing.
And it's just and again, I don't know if that's the direction you want to go, but I would think the unusual is probably safety related, emergency related.
you're gonna get some hands now.
Okay.
Counselor Prestage.
Darn.
It's not emergency or safety related. Those trucks could have hauled down that 658, they would have had to drive slower. They could have taken the Hall Road, come up 32 and came down Blue Ridge's Hall Road, but that took longer. So there was options for them to take. Using 102 was easier for them. By maintaining the road with the calcium and everything was cheaper than paying for their trucks, driving for another 2 extra hours going around it.
But they are clients of ours, right? They're
Exactly.
customers. And I think that's the point though, is when they did approach us, because it was a safety related issue, right? They didn't feel comfortable going down the narrow portion of the road. And yes, you're absolutely, they could have went slower and taken twice as long, but they came to us to ask for a solution, right? Yeah, to
Again,
accommodate their needs.
To bring Thomas Sowell into the conversation, he's, you know, what are the solutions to our problems? There are no solutions, there's only compromises. And that's from everybody, that's businesses, residents, and road use and all the rest of it. The thing that makes people upset is when they're not told about the compromise that's in front of them. That's the biggest issue, so, and that's why I go in the direction of signage, and like, we should always have it on the website. Doesn't matter what it is, if it's an approved, road use agreement, it's on the website, so you can look it up. And then thresholds for how intense it is might generate signage. And again, unusual or safety related, then maybe you're dealing with consultation at that point. But, Councillor Williams and Councillor Preston.
I was just gonna say, I don't think the intent of this conversation is at all to stop people from using stuff. It's just to take out the may inform council and the public, may do that. I think we're trying to find a level of where we must inform. And safety related or not, there's certain cases I think that we must inform us and the public. It's never, my intent of putting any of these rules in place or anything like that isn't to stop industry from using the roads, especially customers like when we're younger, they're very big in our community. We should be able to use these things, but like Councilor Prestridge said, his calls have stopped now that everyone's informed, they're in the loop, they know what's going on. They're probably not loving it, but they know what's happening, so they're okay now.
Councillor Preston, then Councillor Cody.
I think by saying it's safety related or emergency related is gonna pigeonhole our policy. It's any unusual or hauls is enough. Or abnormal,
Make the threshold.
yeah,
Yeah.
'cause
Well, a bunch of increased traffic is safety related too. So
You're creating
But it-
another safety issue by going down a different safety issue.
Councillor Colton.
Yeah, and I guess the conversation has, been around the trucking, but we have a seasonal thing happening, and we do have this white zone logging, so it's going to be unusual to see a log truck going down Range Road 614, which has seen nothing but a farmer in his hay rack for the last 10 years. So I think, when we're talking about, creating the policy, we have to we have to make sure that unusual means that it's not just that it's a log truck, it's just that road has never been used for that purpose. And, so this starts to open that up a little bit. And so I agree, we just need to have communication that says, we know that this hasn't happened here, this is what we're gonna do.
Andre.
I think I think I understand council's
Okay.
wish. I will put something together and fan it out to council.
You're gonna rub your lamp and then make an email that.
It makes us all
Okay,
No, I think we're good.
Good luck.
Change that.
Luck.
Yeah.
Boy, I'd love to have an infrastructure magic lamp. That'd be great. I wish for a bridge. Councillor Cush.
Just to kind of wrap this up, what would we need for a motion coming out of this? What would be the recommendation from administration?
I believe it would be to set up a threshold for what constitutes abnormal or unusual and,
I believe, your worship,
Yep.
that the governance and priority direct administration to redraft the council road use agreement policy and road use bylaw. I guess the bylaw is okay so far, right?
Yes.
The road use agreement policy, I had it too now.
To reflect.
To reflect the discussion, as per the discussion in.
I'll make the motion.
okay.
You remember it all, Dave?
Exactly how Gord just said it. The Governance and Priority Committee, direct administration to redraft the road use agreement policy to reflect the
The discussion.
discussion by council for consideration.
Perfect. I'll accept that motion. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. While we're on this, I just have one question. The engine retarder brakes here, that's within the, is that within the traffic bylaw or the road use
Traffic
bylaw?
safety.
That's within the bylaw.
Yeah.
Do we have that posted in all the hamlets?
I know it's in at least one of them.
Okay.
I don't think Blue Ridge has it anymore.
Cause I ran into that, and in driving along, in some municipalities, you see, please refrain from the use of engine retarder brakes. And then others, you say, it'll say prohibited. And the difference is one has a bylaw and the other one doesn't. So you can get a ticket for one, you can't for the other. And I just wanna, I don't know that I haven't been driving a truck for a long, long time though, so I don't pay attention because I don't have a retarder. So.
I'll make a comment on that. In Blue Ridge, if you do have a sign, nobody follows it. Even the log trucks coming up to the stop sign in front of the community hall, just lay on their jake brake right till they're stopped. So maybe we should have a bylaw that prohibits.
Well, it's right there. No person shall use a retarder brakes. Wrong mode. No person shall use engine retarder brakes within a hamlet of the county. Now, I've always looked at these things and thought that, you know, an engine retarder brake makes a lot less noise than a truck coming through your living room window too. But
Well, a lot of the new trucks, the engine brakes are silent.
yeah,
Some of
These-
the old ones, and they put straight pipes on them,
these are log trucks.
Yeah, they're.
just rattle your windows out.
All right. So we've got that recommendation on the road use policy. So winter operations policy.
Yep, your worship, and then the other issue or the other part of it is the road use bylaw. If there's any concerns or issues relating to that, we would then have a motion to forward it to council for consideration to give.
Okay.
And would council want a public consultation or public hearing in regards to that? Because it is optional. But sometimes you want that consultation.
I don't think a consult would be a bad idea on this. I mean, infrastructure, road use and everything, that's 90% of what we get calls about. And service tracker and everything else, so I think it would be a good opportunity to put our money where our mouth is on the consult end of things when we're passing something like this.
Yep.
So, can governance and priorities recommend it for a public consult?
Yep.
Or do we have to get council to do that? We kick it to council and council recommends it?
Well, and again, what I would suggest is that council, that the governance and policy committee direct administration to establish public consultation process, and I'm again thinking more than one in Fort Assiniboine, one in the Whitecourt area.
My only comment on that would be, I think it would be, especially in light of what went on, I think it would be a good idea to have the policy and the bylaw
Yeah.
together. Was that the intention?
I think that's an excellent idea, but yeah, it's good thought. Yeah.
Well, again, in light of what went on, and you can tell people, you know, we understand what's going on, we're making changes to fix it, so.
And we can do Blue Ridge at Blue Ridge.
Mhm.
You know, again, we haven't been out to the public in over 2 years, so
So you wanna do one in Whitecourt, one in Blue Ridge, one in Fort?
that's entirely up to council. You may want to do one down in El Selmo. That's,
It's almost close to Blue Ridge.
Okay, so Fort, Blue Ridge, Whitecourt, public consult for both the policy and the bylaw.
that's the wishes of the governance and policy committee direct administration too.
Okay, well, I'll make the motion since I'm on it, so I'll make the motion that the governance and priorities recommend that the road use policy and the road use bylaw, is it the road use bylaw? Is that the right terminology for it?
Yep, have public
Have a public consultation in Blue Ridge, Fort Assiniboine, and Whitecourt at the discretion of administration for our timing.
If you stop at Blue Ridge or whatever the last three the community was, then we're good, and then we'll let council be aware. Because again, we have to coordinate with your guys' schedules as well as ours, and they would be evening meetings to a certain degree and stuff, so.
I just gave you discretion.
Thank
You
you.
keep wanting discretion. I give you discretion and you don't even take it. You're like, no,
Andre
more
wanted
discretion.
Say it twice.
Okay, so motion's on the floor. Counselor Cush, oh, sorry, Counselor Cloken.
It's not just
Okay,
here.
I guess because winter operations also, you know, it's separate, it's a different RFD, but because winter operations also is mostly roads that we deal with, if we're dealing with that policy, it would, you know, that public consult would probably extend to that. Is that a possibility within this motion or not?
Infrastructure meetings.
Well, it's not a bad idea. It's just get ready.
Just
I
throwing it out there.
I would even accept it as a friendly amendment. How about that? I'll accept adding the winter operations policies to it as a friendly amendment. Okay, any more discussion on my ever-growing motion? All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. All right,
2-minute break.
2-minute break? Okay, let's make it a 10-minute break. We'll come back at 5 to 5.
Does this mean that we've discussed it?
All right, so we are back after a quick break here, so that brings us to item 6.4, winter operations policies. And that's gonna be Andre again.
Mr. Chair, committee members, council directed the winter operations policies to be brought to the GMP committee. We have four main policies: sanding, plowing, snow control, grading of private driveways, snow control, grading of private driveways procedure, and plowing of roadways. The two policies having to do with private driveways were revised in May 2019. We could consider them current. We haven't had any issues. We did not propose any changes. Does not mean we can't make changes if council wishes. So same as the previous policy, changes to the policy are either bold, meaning words have been added, or strike through where they've been removed. On policy, well, on page 2, we've added items 6, 7, and 8, identifying sanding and salting commences when snow has been removed from the driving surface. When roadway temperatures are too low, colder than minus 20 Celsius, use of road salt, only winter will stop and winterized sand is to be applied. And sanding operations will continue regardless of the temperature. For the policy on snow plowing of roadways, we just cleaned it up 3 inches. So 7.62 centimeters, we changed that to 7.5 and 2.5. We took out item number 5, if and when a windrow of snow is left on an approach above 6 inches, the windrow will be removed. Most of the time, the guys plowing, they have a hard time telling if there's a 6-inch windrow there or not. And if there is a lot of snow where there are 6-inch windrows, they're not going to be stopping, because every driveway will be have a windrow more than 6 inches, and if they stop at each one, roads aren't going to be done. Gravel surfaces, we took out reference to the Anselmo grader beat. This was put in, I'm going to say probably 20 years ago when that beat was contracted out. So we just took that out. Discussion or comments in there about sanding gravel roads. We changed that, or we took that out. Identify the county will make reasonable effort to open all roads within 96 hours or 4 days of a snowfall ending. Cases where there are back-to-back snowstorms. Crews will plow roads on a rotating basis until opened up. Sidewalks will be cleared within 48 hours of snowstorm ending. Snow plowing operations are carried out under adverse driving condition, making safety precautions necessary. Just identifying that warning lights are to be checked frequently. If visibility reduces below 75 meter for the operator, then equipment will be pulled off the road. We'll notify RCMP, and depending if it's going to be prolonged, we'll try to get notices on the radio. Once temperatures fall below 32 degrees Celsius, ground engaging equipment will not be utilized. So that is the plows. Won't be plowing roads past minus 32. And we typically don't get snow when it's that cold anyways. Except in extreme emergencies, an employee should not operate equipment beyond a maximum of 13 hours or as outlined in the National Safety Code. reviewing a number of municipalities' road use, snow and winter operations policies. Some identify arterial roads will be plowed first. We don't have a lot of arterial roads. I did not find any that identified that school bus routes will be plowed first. When I had some discussions with other infrastructure people, they've removed those because if school bus routes are done first, that means plows are driving with their plows up over different roads to get to school bus routes. So eliminated that, makes the operations move a little bit faster. That's basically how we got to what I have here.
Councilor Prestige.
Getting back to the, through the chair, Andre, getting back to the windrows and driveways, are you saying now that you're not gonna clean them up?
Again, I know council doesn't like subjectivity, but if we are getting a heavy snowfall, and, you know, if we get 10 inches of snow, we're just gonna go open up roads. And then when we go back and clean up, then we open up the approaches. If they hit a drift on a road and a driveway gets more than 6 inches, but everything else is getting 2 or 3, yes, they'll open that one up, but there's a bit of gray in there.
Okay, because I've seen our graders leave 2-foot grader banks in people's driveways. And they're parking on the road because they can't get in. That's unacceptable.
Agree. That should never be happening.
Councilor Williams.
I was just gonna bring up the same point, but I still don't really agree with that coming out. I think that should still be in there. That it creates such a safety concern for so many people, because when the snow is 6 inches deep, that's different than when they leave a greater bank of 6 inches or 10 inches. It becomes almost impossible to get out for some people. So I get it 100%. We gotta get the roads open too, but that taking that out, there's no catch there to actually have it done.
Anyone else? Councilor Kush.
This is not really more of a question, but a comment. With our personal driveway plowing and stuff, the flag program, just where, you know, the interest of communication, what we just kind of talked about, given winter is coming, is there any way we can even put on the website or start putting some type of information out a little bit earlier for people for the flags so they know to come pick them up? I had some residents last year that, for whatever reason, were surprised that they had to come pick up flags earlier in the winter, so I bet they could. So I would just, if we just get the information out, it's kind of part of what's in here, look at the application. I would just like to get the information out to the public before it becomes a snowfall and an issue.
Post or something.
We should bring some snowplow flags with us to our public console. I'm not kidding, like that wouldn't be a bad idea.
Probably be it,
Yeah? Councilor Wilhelm.
With regards to the documentation required for snow plowing of driveways, is this only done physically, or is there a way we can implement this onto the website for request? Like, say, seniors picked up 3 flags. Is there some place where if they place a flag, they can go on and say, okay, I want a request, rather than waiting for the county to go around and be like, oh, I see a flag there, now I gotta go do that one. Because right now, I think if we look on page 5, that's Schedule C, grading of private drives, request from landowner. That's a document that needs to be handed in at the office or emailed in or something like that. This is a possibility to create an online form, so it's just easier. You don't have a piece of document you gotta print off, sign, scan, then email it into the office. Might just save a little bit of time for, especially for people that are either stuck out at their house or live quite far away from the office.
Through the chair, Are you, just so I understand, do you mean, can they print something off that they can put at the end of their driveway?
No, I mean, is there, 'cause so, I've never had this done, so I don't necessarily understand the procedure. As far as I understand, you buy a certain amount of flags at the beginning or at any time of the year, say buy 3 of them. And I stick the flag out at the end of my driveway. What's the indicator to staff to clear my driveway? They have to see that flag and come do it, or do I have to hand in a piece of paper that tells you that I want it to get it done? How does it work?
Through the chair, you put the flag out, our guys see it, they go do it.
Okay.
And we do get a number of people that call and say, I put my flag out, just so we can tell the operators.
Okay.
We do get people that fill in service tracker, say, I put the flag out, and then we forward it on.
Okay. Because I do see, like, in your policy here under page 5, Schedule C, you've got a piece of paper here that says grading of private driveways dash request from landowner. Is that what they're supposed to be filling out if they want to
The
get their-
initial.
The initial,
Well, that's just the initial when they
Yes.
pick up their flags.
Yeah, so then they sign a waiver that we're not responsible for any
That's grading, that's not, that's a grading document,
Grading.
not a
Oh, I
snowplow.
right. So
I see.
Schedule A is a snowplow one,
I see.
and that's
But
page
it's the
3.
same.
Schedule C is the.
Essentially the same form.
Okay, I'm just wondering, if this is just something for the future as we continue to make all our services and increase our service levels. If there's a way we could do this that's just automated, right? Like actually picking up a flag and sticking out. Couldn't we just utilize Service Tracker to essentially purchase and tag our site and say, I want my driveway done on Service Tracker, and they paid for it? Just an idea, like I just floating that idea out there.
Through the chair, it is a good idea, but our guys are out there, they're grading the road. They're not gonna have the memory bank, I gotta look for this civic number, and then go plow it. So we have something physical out there that they can see.
Counselor Dean?
Yeah, and I guess, thanks, Reed, back to council as a whole, I think, and as well as administration. I know personally, I've missed the grader. You know, I had a flag, and then all of a sudden you get a dump, and you're busy doing stuff, and then the guys are busy, and they might not get back for, you know, it's sometimes, if it's heavy snowfall, they might not be back for a week or so.
Correct.
And so I hear what Jeremy's saying, because you could then just have a means to do that without having to physically be in your at your home. So I'd like administration maybe think about that as you know, is there an opportunity to make that happen?
Well, yeah, and again, just with you could do a prepayment plan where you give us permission to always go in and grade your driveway or snowplow your driveway at our discretion when we believe that it's required, right? And then you get billed. That's one way to do it when you have a heavy snowfall, right? And that needs it. And I'm just,
If we want something like that, we may have a different operator on a route, and they go by, they don't know. That's why we have something visible, so regardless who's doing it, they know.
Just a question. Once you stick the flag in, and I should know more about this, but once they stick the flag in and they've graded the driveway, does the operator then take the flag with them so they know that it's completed?
They do, and then it gets registered back here.
Is it numbered?
Counselor Prestage.
I think what we have to remember here is the main objective of the graders is to open the roads up. So if everybody puts their flag out while the grader's going by, they're doing driveways, they're not plowing the road out. Our main objective is to get that road plowed out, and when they have time, they go do driveways.
Counselor Wilhelm.
Just to rebut that comment, There are situations though, like if there is a bad snowfall and you've got seniors living in homes that can't get out of their driveway, and they're literally, like, I got calls last year with seniors who, they couldn't go to the end of their driveway to put a flag in because they couldn't walk to the end of their driveway, so they're literally trapped in their homes. I know that they could call the office and figure that out, but maybe they don't know that. So I'm just bringing up situations that happened, because I heard about it 3 times last winter, and it was rectified, because I told their kids that called me and asked me, how do I fix this? Call the office, they'll deal with it. But there are situations like that. So I do understand the roads being open is incredibly important, but we do have a situation where it's not me trapped in my house. I can drive out with a 4x4. There's an 80-year-old woman there that doesn't know how to get away out of her house.
Well, if I remember correctly, our foremans have 1-ton trucks with snowplows on the front and sanders. And that was one of the selling features to council by investing in these trucks with the snowplows, was if there was an emergency driveway that needed to be cleaned out, they would go push it out with the 1-tons. Instead of running graders back 5 miles to clean the driveway.
Okay, I'm gonna recognize Andre to respond, and then Councilor Cushing and Councilor Baker.
As far as driveways go, keep in mind, we're not the only game in town.
Right.
There's lots of contractors people can call. I know our operation is very subsidized, so it's advantageous, but if somebody is really stuck, they can always call a contractor. But as you mentioned, we did get calls last winter where they can't get out, and we would go in, do it, and grab the flag at their house. So there are always ways around things in different situations.
Sorry to interrupt, but is there an emergency line for, like, for that
Yeah, the
situation?
1-800 number,
Okay.
after hour.
Councilor Cush.
Just kind of, I guess, a couple of years ago in my area, that kind of, I guess, goes off what you're talking about too. There was an elderly couple had a specialist appointment in Edmonton. We had a lot of snow, and the graders were in the area, but not quite there yet. And it was something they had been waiting for. I was able to get a hold of administration. They put me through, I forget who the gentleman was who was, I guess, in charge of the roads or whatever in that area. And they made, from administration, and to actually go out there because of this situation, and they opened up that part of the road and helped get them out so they could make their appointment. Like, just like a good story from our administration. They are, in emergency cases or stuff like that, I found them to be very receptive and, willing to try to do what they can for the residents. So, thank you, Andre, to you and your staff.
Councilor Colkin.
Okay, I'm gonna put an interesting situation, which has been for years, because I don't live on a county road, but I do live on Highway 33. And for years, I guess it was Curlian and then MCON, filled my driveway up and never ever, no matter how many phone calls we made, would clean the driveway. So I got in the habit of doing those ones that are in my area myself, and that continues on. So when you negotiate the contract with MCON or whoever, with Whitecourt, whoever has the contract for those roads, you guys take over that portion. Are the driveways included?
Through the chair, no.
Perfect. Negotiate that, and I'll still keep cleaning my driveway, and you'll make some money.
Okay, I'm gonna ask a couple questions myself, if I could jump in here. So in the very beginning here, you talk about below -20, I think it is. You're gonna use winterized sand. What's winterized sand?
So it doesn't freeze.
Winterized sand is sand that was put up this time of year with a 3% salt mixture to keep it from freezing.
So the second question is, do we use any urea?
We do not use urea except at the airport. We do use calcium on most of our plow trucks, sprayed on the sand as it's going off, and that helps activate and it helps it stick to the road.
Sorry, I was gonna say calcium chloride. My airport brain kicked in there.
And we do have an inhibitor, rust inhibitor in our calcium.
What about scarification? Do we do scarification when it's icy like crazy?
On gravel roads, we do.
It's not in here, is it?
No.
And I know it's tricky because, and especially these days, because we seem to get a lot of days hovering around December, it seems like, where you'll get a good dump of snow, then it'll get nice and sunny, and, you know, we don't wanna obviously put all the gravel in the ditch, so we don't have the blades tight to the ground. And then the ice forms on the road, then you scarify it, then it goes above zero. The grader's not even halfway down the road and it melts flat again, you gotta come out and scarify it again. And we had lots and lots of calls on scarification, how that's done, and when it's done. And I'm wondering if we do it, how come it's not in the policy?
If I can retract my answer.
Okay.
So all our graders are used, in the wintertime, we use the shark blades. They are, if you can visualize what catwalk looks like, those are the kind of blades we use in the winter. They scarify the snow the whole time that blade is down, regardless of the road they're on. Last winter, we did have especially March, we had a lot of roads where we'd go over with the grader. The sun was hot, the roads would glaze over, we'd have to go over them almost every second day, sometimes twice a day.
Okay. Councilor Prestige.
Just through the chair to Andre and administration. In the Hamilton Village, the last 2 winters, the snow removal has been incredible. I've had more compliments from residents in the area, what a great job is being done. So I just want to repeat it to you. Good job.
Thank you. We did make an concerted effort to service the hamlets better.
Good shows.
Okay. Councilor Bush.
Just one in regards to our plowing for the initial snowfalls. Last winter was the first time I know obviously we don't put the blade down all the way or whatnot, but the roads, I have never seen them that rough. And my phone call after we get that first kind of dump where we basically high bladed across everything, and it was the most phone calls I had ever received from numerous residents about the road quality. And we talked to administration and got the reasoning behind, but it was hard to sell that to residents when they go another kilometer down the road into Lac-Saint-Anne and everything was plowed down to gravel and smooth. I'm just curious, if that's something we're going to continue, or like, I don't know, it was a real hard sell.
Andre?
Through the chair, Councilor Cush, we do that every fall until the roads freeze up. It was worse in the Anselmo area. We had a new to us operator in that area, so he was leaving a lot too much snow. But typically, we don't plow all the way down to the gravel at the beginning of winter.
Councilor Williams.
I guess this kind of goes hand in hand with the road use policy, but is there a road into a policy that industry supplies a grader for some spots, like the Hall Road that goes up to the Timu, or the county road that goes up to the Timu Hall Road is an industry road, and that there's a 90-degree corner there, it's super sharp, and it ices up really quickly. And I get last year, I know a lot of requests went in for that area specifically, and it was all caused. There's only one house past there. Does that ever get addressed during a permitting process or anything like that, or do we not let them come onto our roads, or how does that usually work
It does get addressed, and we do have them on our roads,
on there?
yes.
Yeah, I've taken a trip off the top end of that once or
Well,
twice.
that's the most dangerous corner in the county when they're hauling logs because, and it ices up. It doesn't matter what.
It's a good-
You,
it's a-
I guarantee you know.
It's a good thing it's built to county standard, cause the ride down the backside isn't all that bad.
But just something because I know I was getting lots of complaints and then I forwarded them on, and it seemed like our grader is just constantly going up there to go deal with that corner, versus trying to keep everything else open. I figured it probably was, but.
Go ahead, Councillor Prestige.
On that corner and that little stretch of road, I drove sanding truck for Progressive, which was the Miller Western. And I went up there many times, sanded that corner and stuff, only when their log trucks were hauling. If the log trucks weren't hauling, they didn't do it.
Which most of the time when it ices up, it's when they're hauling, because they come up the corner, sun breaks on, go around the corner. But I know caused a lot of problems, because a lot of people use that road, because they also fish out there or do whatever, so there's lots of complaints.
So if I'm to bring this back and kind of codify what I've heard here, page 3, item 5, which is struck out. If and when a windrow of snow is left on an approach or intersection that's above 6 inches, the windrow shall be removed. Is that one that council wants struck out?
I don't agree with it being struck out.
Okay, so that one is to be left in by council? Like a 6-inch greater windrow is pretty rough on your vehicle, and you're definitely gonna lose some plastic if it's a car. Sort of ABS.
I won't enter into this conversation because I get at least a foot every time.
6 inches would be like
6
nothing.
inches
Wouldn't even
I'd
slow you down.
I've seen your truck. Okay, so in or out? In?
I usually do.
In, out?
I think that, given, it covers so many different driveways, it should be in.
Okay,
It's like, that's what everybody wants, I agree.
okay.
Yeah, I think it gives guidance to the operators. They're gonna use their judgment, what's 6 inches, what's 5, what's 7, but if
If it's
their
noticeable.
wife's car can't drive over it, then they should clear it up.
Okay, anything, Councillor Prestige?
Okay, I think there should be a timeline on it. Are we saying that when the grader plows the road out, they have to clean the windrow, or is it when
Yeah.
they come back? Like, if they're plowing the road out and they're leaving a foot-high grader bank and they're not gonna be back for 2 days, then it should be cleaned up. Or leveled out so it's passable. It doesn't have to be down to the gravel or whatever, as long as it's passable.
Our current procedure, unwritten, is if they plow in a driveway, that's very noticeable. They have to remove it right away, not keep going and get it on the way back. I can put that in there.
Councillor Williams?
I was just gonna add, yeah, I don't think that they should stop at every driveway, but if we have it done within a certain amount of time, or the supervisor trucks, they clean a lot of driveways out in a short amount of time with a pickup like that, so I think if there was a time associated with that, one, it doesn't give it that much time to freeze rock hard in 2 days kind of thing.
7 minutes.
Anything else? Nothing? Yep, Andre?
Question for the committee. So right now we have policy 3221, sanding and salting. We have policy 3223, snow plowing of roadways. Administration did have a discussion about amalgamating those two into one winter operations policy. Is that acceptable to council, or do you want to keep it as two separate policies?
In this policy from 1994. Councillor Cush.
I think it'd be okay if we, amalgamated one, just bring back a draft for council to look at.
Yeah, I agree.
We can clean up some of the papers we have.
Well, you kind of have here, isn't it? The new policy includes the sanding? Does it not?
They are still separated in here.
Would not all four of these policies be essentially go under a single
Right.
winter operation policy? Like, would that not be the best thing to do with it?
I would recommend you keep the driveway separate.
Okay.
Yeah, but 3221, 322201, and 3223 could go together.
Or 3221 and 23 together. Because isn't 22 and 2201, that's with private driveways specifically, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
I would recommend taking these four policies, turning them into two policies.
One for
Yeah,
gravel,
well,
one for
22 becomes separate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said, 322201.
Mhm.
That's the snow control grading procedure, which I see as 3222 is the other ones. Yeah, so you're you're combining everything except the 3222, snow control and grading of private driveways, correct? And that one's two separate.
3222 and 32201 would be one policy. And then sanding, salting, snow plowing of roadways would be a second policy.
Because 3221 and 3223 are for public roads, and 3222 and 322201 is
Or
private roads.
private driveways.
Private driveways.
Oh, well, hang on a minute here.
I think, your worship, just so the header on the RFD just omitted the title on.
Right. That's what I
Grading
was
of
checking.
private driveway.
I was checking the title on it, and the title's wrong. Okay. So is that recommendation then, split up?
Yep,
Split 'em into two?
split them into two.
Okay, split them into two, I'll combine them into two, I guess, from four.
Do you want a motion to that effect?
Yes.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we recommend that the policy 32201 or 3222-01 and 3222 are one policy, and 3201 and 3202 are,
No, sorry. You already said the 222 ones.
yeah, okay, I'm just trying to get them all
Three,
lined up.
3222 and 322201 will be one policy.
Yep.
Right,
Right.
3221.
and 3221. And
3223.
3223 will be another policy.
Too many.
Does that work?
Yes.
So that's the motion.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? All right, then the second one with the amendments, I guess, that we've identified, that this will, the the policies will be,
No, your
Or do you
worship,
wanna-
I believe that motion would cover it, because now we have to come back to council with a new combined winter maintenance, policy that would have the recommended.
so you're gonna bring that to council though?
That's
Or you're
correct.
gonna bring it back here?
Don't, you've had the discussion.
Right.
We're just combining the two to show.
Okay, so we should have said combining it with the recommendations.
Okay,
That's what you said.
sure. I thought he had said
Did you say
that.
with the recommendations? Okay, sorry, it
I
wasn't.
thought he did.
I was focused on the.
Yeah,
I didn't hear. Yeah, I didn't hear that. State your motion again before we vote on it.
Okay.
I'll do the first part. So that 3222 and 32201 be combined into one policy, and 3221 and 3223 are combined into one policy, and then brought to council with the
With the
recommended
recommendations.
changes.
With the recommended changes.
Okay, that's your motion?
That's my motion.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Sorry,
We favored that one twice.
that's it.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's it.
sorry,
That's it.
yeah.
We're good.
All right, we're on to the next one. Because, apparently I'm in the Wayback Machine doing things twice.
Andrew's got
And I apologize, guys, I gotta get going.
Okay,
one more question.
Andre?
what's that? Oh, Andre, sorry. go
Just
ahead.
for clarification, these two policies will come back to you or go to council after the public consultation or before?
No, after,
After,
because.
yeah.
they want-
Okay. That's what I thought.
Yeah, it'll be good, and then there won't be four of them. See you later. There'll be less. Okay, we're on to item 6.5, and that's Whitecourt District Chamber of Commerce Events Meeting. Bert, take it away.
Thank you. So all roads lead somewhere, and our roads support all of our operations, including how we interact with our business community. That would be a fun segue. So, in front of council is a RFD that you saw most of yesterday. We've got a couple of pieces that administration has added in today. The recommendation is that Governance and Priorities Committee recommends to Woodlands County Council to fund participation in the Economic Forum and the Trunk or Treat event for 2022 from the 2022 operations budget for council. Background, it was reviewed yesterday at council, referred to today's meeting. Administration has reviewed the items, and we do expect that the maximum cost to participate in both events this year would be approximately $6,500. That could be funded from the existing 2022 operations budget for council. And yesterday I did make an appearance at the Chamber of Commerce regular members meeting and did give a county update that the items were currently under discussion by council, so they are patiently awaiting council's decision on whether or not we would participate in both events. But of course, the chamber would love to have us have a presence and be at both events. And the only other additional thing I want to bring your attention to is, if you look at page 2, the letter that we received from the chamber, they do have a list of their events. And so just so that everyone understands sort of fully where we're at in interacting and supporting with the chamber, currently this year, we had 3 of the scheduled events that the county had committed to. So the trade fair, the networking golf tournament, and the Christmas parade. Those are the 3 events that were on our radar and we would have participated in anyway this year. So adding to that would be these other 2, the Economic Forum and the Trunk or Treat. And then the chamber in the letter has given us the heads up that they will be bringing back a new event, the President's Gala Dinner, which we still don't know exactly what the pricing will be in 2023, as well as an event that we had participated in before but that they haven't had the last couple of years, which is the Business Awards. So we're currently set to participate in 3 of 5 events in 2022 without making any changes. If we do make the changes, it would be as many as 5 of 6 events this year. And then council, depending on what you want to take to and consider to budget, we may consider participating in up to all 6 events in 2023.
Once again,
Just a question for Bert. You're saying that this current year, we without making changes, we're participating in the economic forum and the golf tournament?
No, we would have participated in the annual trade fair, the June networking golf tournament, and plans to participate in the Christmas parade this year.
Okay. We participated in the golf tournament?
Yes.
Okay.
And if you look at the information on the RFD, that's indicated, both the trade fair booth and 2 passes to the golf tournament are included in the $1,500 we currently budget for the platinum membership.
Okay.
And then that also includes participation at the monthly member meetings, and as was mentioned as well, we do have information that we include on the weekly fan notes.
So
Go ahead.
I'm prepared to make a motion that the GMP committee recommends to Woodlands County Council to fund participation in the economic forum and trunk or treat from the 2022 operations budget for council.
Okay, the motion's accepted. I just have a question of clarification on the motion because I can't get this PDF to open. What's that? Which version of the, at what level of sponsorship are we going into the?
What it talks about the $5,000.
Yeah, I'm having a technological breakdown, so.
Yeah, I hear you. It's 6,500, so the trunk or treat is only $100, but then there would be staffing costs and treat costs, I guess, right?
Correct.
1,500.
1,500, so 5,000 for the economic forum and 1,500 for the trunk or treat.
That's correct.
Okay. All right,
Sorry, Mike.
thanks. Just wanted to get that clarification. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. That brings us to, now I have to find my agenda again. Brings us to, I think, the next meeting date. Do we have a next meeting date?
Yeah, that's entirely up to council. Remember, what we tried to do is work it in conjunction with your schedules based on councilors' work schedules.
All right. Go ahead, Councilor Cush.
Just one with Councillor Wilhelm out here, is it possible we hold the next meeting date off till our next council meeting? See what might work with his work schedule also.
That's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Does that work?
So the governance to be determined, is that?
Call it to be determined at the next council
Yeah.
meeting.
We can,
Council Dean.
Coming back to when we formed this committee, because it was new, the intent was to have one GNP per month, but we did 2 because we had the backlog from the summer.
yeah, it's just, you guys.
We did 2 this month.
Wanted to
because we-
have lots of discussion.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and we keep recommending stuff to the GNP and we
Yeah.
don't have enough
Only 4
meetings.
items.
So we could do one of 2 things. We could, bump the number from 4 to more, and be here all night.
No.
Or we could, have more meetings. So
No.
Yeah, what's option 3? Or have longer council meetings.
No. And I
Talk
just had a
less.
question about this letter. Is this just for info or?
That's for info. Okay, so we have the next meeting. So who wants to make the motion to get the next meeting
I'll
date?
make a motion to set the next GMP committee meeting at our September 28th council meeting.
Okay. Now we just need a motion. Oh, sorry. Yes. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. We just need a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Okay. Any discussion?
We got you.
All in favor?
Dave?
Stole it from
That's
Dave
carried.
there.
We're adjourned.